know what that bone was, like an arm bone, a neck bone, a leg bone. It was a bone, just a rib bone. It was in the back. Okay, so in the backyard, I don't know, there's no fence blocking it off. So there is a fence blocking where that door is open, and that's where I saw those two white girls go in, and they told straight out, they told all of us they wanted to go inside the house and video it. So I know it was them, but they went in the whole house. Well, and that's, I wouldn't want to go in the house. Like, there's no way I would go inside. That's just creepy to me.
It's ridiculous that people are going inside the fucking house.
I didn't go inside.
Yes, I seen you.
I didn't go in the house.
You went into the property.
I didn't go in the house.
Yes, you were inside there.
We were right here because the guy kept trying to offer people tours.
The one that you guys
Then
can't find.
why would you think that's okay?
Yeah.
Why would you
There's
think
all
that's
kind of
physically
people
okay?
back.
Mentally okay?
Yeah, well,
This
you
is
need
the
to watch what
place.
you say, because I didn't go in their house, and you're telling people I went in their house.
Am I pointing at you? No.
You did a minute ago.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Whoever I'm going like
Yeah,
this.
but your
okay?
whatever could make a big mistake for me, so you should think about it.
Down the street. I'm sorry.
You making this ruckus out here is a disgrace.
You guys are acting like this is a fucking circus.
He was just a baby, 7 months old, helpless, fragile, a life that had barely even begun, and already extinguished in the most haunting way imaginable. The people who should have loved him most, the people who should have protected him at all costs, are the very ones whose story doesn't add up. And behind the walls of their home, police would uncover things so disturbing, so unspeakable, that even hardened investigators said they would never forget what they saw. This isn't the story of a kidnapping gone wrong. This isn't the story of a tragic accident. This is the story of betrayal inside a family's own four walls. A betrayal that left an innocent child silenced forever. So the question we asked tonight is chillingly simple. What really happened to baby Emmanuel Haro inside the very home meant to keep him safe? Because Emmanuel never got to take his first steps. He never got to say his first words. He never got the chance to grow, to laugh, to live. His short life was stolen, and the silence left in its place is deafening. And if this story doesn't shake you to your core, if it doesn't make you question just how dark the human heart can be, then nothing ever will. Subscribe right now. Because if we stop telling these stories, children like Emmanuel disappeared twice. Once from this world, and once from our memory. Emmanuel Haro was just 7 months old. To anyone who saw him, he was the picture of innocence. A bright-eyed infant, too young to understand the dangers of the world, too young to protect himself from them. His parents, Jake and mother's name, were supposed to be his guardians. To the community, they seemed like any other family. An ordinary couple living in a quiet suburban neighborhood, raising their child behind closed doors. Neighbors described them as private, sometimes distant, but no one ever suspected what would come next. The timeline begins with the last known sighting of Emmanuel alive. It was an ordinary day. No alarms, no outward signs of trouble. Then, suddenly, the story shifts. Emmanuel's parents reported him missing. According to them, their baby had been taken. A kidnapping, they claimed. Police responded immediately. In the first frantic hours, officers treated it as a possible abduction, canvassing the area, questioning neighbors, searching nearby streets. But from the very start, something felt off. The parents' statements did not align. Their stories shifted. Details contradicted each other. And when investigators compared their words to what they found inside the home, the cracks widened. Still, the community rallied. Volunteers flooded the streets with flyers. Search dogs were brought in. Drones combed the skies. And news crews set up camp in front of the Haro home. Candlelight vigils flickered into the night. Desperate prayers whispered into the darkness for a baby who could not answer. But as the hours stretched into days, the optimism faded. And behind the scenes, investigators began noticing details that didn't fit. The so-called kidnapping story unraveled piece by piece. The evidence inside the Haro home told a different story, a darker story, one that no one in that community wanted to believe. And while the parents pleaded publicly, suspicion began to grow quietly. Because if Emmanuel had not been taken by a stranger, then the truth of his disappearance was hiding much closer to home. Imagine if it was your child, your baby. Wouldn't you want the world to keep asking questions? To never stop searching? To never stop demanding answers? Subscribe now, because if we allow silence to fall over Emmanuel's story, then we are letting his memory fade. And that silence is a second death. When investigators walked back into the Haro home, the air itself seemed heavier. The kind of heaviness you feel when you know something is wrong, but can't yet put it into words. At first glance, nothing screamed intrusion. No shattered windows. No kicked-in doors. No forced entry at all. But the deeper they searched, the more the house began to speak. And its whispers were chilling. There were traces of blood, faint but undeniable. Drops where no one could explain them. Stains where a child should never bleed. Objects scattered out of place, as if something had happened suddenly, violently. And through it all, one image burned into every officer's memory. The crib. Empty. Silent. As if Emmanuel had been lifted from it in the dead of night and erased from existence. But silence doesn't lie. The walls told their story. Something had happened in that home. Something the parents' words could not account for. Police knew, almost instantly, that the story of a kidnapping was just that, a story. Within hours, officials confirmed the chilling truth. There was no sign of a stranger abduction. No prowler in the night. No phantom kidnapper. Whatever happened to Emmanuel had happened inside those four walls. And yet, instead of clarity, this discovery only birthed darker questions. If Emmanuel wasn't taken by a stranger, then what happened to him? Who was responsible? And why was his tiny body still nowhere to be found? Because if the danger wasn't outside the Haro's home, then the horror lived inside it. And that truth would devastate the community. And before we continue, I'll ask you something directly. If you're not subscribed, ask yourself, why would you turn away from the truth? Stories like this don't just vanish if you ignore them. Ignoring them doesn't protect you. It blinds you. So hit that button now. Don't close your eyes. As the days turned into weeks, investigators began dismantling every second of the Haro story. Minute by minute, hour by hour, the timeline was stripped bare. What was Jake Haro doing at the moment his son supposedly vanished? Where was Emmanuel's mother? Why did neighbors recall arguments, late-night shouting, lights flickering at unusual hours? Yet the parents swore nothing was wrong. Phone records were pulled, security footage checked, and each layer peeled back seemed to reveal more inconsistencies, not less. 3 theories emerged, each more haunting than the last. The first, an accident, covered up in panic. Had something gone wrong in the Haro home, leading to a desperate attempt to hide the truth? The second, an abduction, but staged. A story crafted to shift blame onto a phantom intruder that never existed. And the third, the one no one wanted to believe, intentional harm. That Emmanuel had not been lost to chance or fate, but to the hands of those who should have loved him most. Online, the case exploded. Reddit threads dissected every contradiction. Facebook groups lit up with speculation, pointing to what investigators had left unsaid. Comment after comment echoed the same burning question. Why wasn't the Haro house searched sooner? And what else might have been missed? For the community, hope turned to betrayal. A candlelight vigil was held, hundreds of voices singing Emmanuel's name into the night. but the prayers were met with silence. Parents wept openly in the crowd, clutching their children tighter, terrified by the thought that danger might not come from a stranger at all, but from within a family's own walls. And as the evidence mounted, one truth became impossible to ignore. Emmanuel's disappearance was no longer a mystery that could unite the community. It was a wound, dividing them. Some still clung to the idea of an outside monster. But for many, the monster had already been found, and it lived under Emmanuel's roof. In the aftermath, the Haro family's response only deepened the shadows. Emmanuel's mother appeared tearful in public, her voice breaking, her words drenched in grief. And yet, behind the tears, questions remained unanswered. Her story shifted, details blurred. What was truth? And what was performance? No one could say for certain. His father, Jake Haro, became the focus of the investigation. Silent at times, defiant at others, his explanations never seemed to align with the evidence. He remained under scrutiny, but even now, clarity has never come. And so the most haunting questions remain suspended in the air, like a cloud that refuses to clear. Where is Emmanuel's body? Why were lies told about a kidnapping that never happened? And could there have been someone else involved in this tiny child's disappearance? No matter how investigators search, no matter how the community demanded answers, the silence was louder than any confession. And so we are left with this unbearable truth. Emmanuel never had a chance to grow up, never had the chance to laugh, or to speak his first words. His story is not just about a life lost. It is about innocence stolen, about trust betrayed, about the darkness that can exist inside the very places we are told to feel safe. But Emmanuel's memory cannot be buried in silence. Sharing his story keeps him alive. Don't let his short life be forgotten. If you know anything, contact insert local authorities tip line. Because justice for Emmanuel depends on voices refusing to stay silent. And if you close this video without subscribing, remember this. For you, Emmanuel's story ends here. You can click away. You can move on. But for his family, for those who loved him, the nightmare never ends. Don't be the person who turns away. Do the right thing. Subscribe now, and help us make sure Emmanuel's name is never erased from this world.